So what we're going to do is we're going to jump in, and I have a PowerPoint we'll follow along. But if you have questions, please jump into the chat or raise your hand. Tanaka's with us this evening and Neil's with us this evening, and they'll help also monitor the chat for any questions that come along. And we'll do a little Q&A at the end anyway, but certainly if you have something you want to contribute or you want to ask, by all means do that. Okay, I apologize. My daughter's called 3 times. I am going to have to take this. Danny, can I hand over to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everybody. First of all, I see a baby on the call, and I love this. Hello. Yes,
Ivy.
you're never too young to start learning about donor engagement.
Love
Actually,
that, Jen.
babies are a great way to raise funds. And actually, it's kind of a good segue, right? Because it's all about kind of like this emotional connection, right? Of how do you get a person to kind of fall in love with your program, with the work that you're doing, and support you. But I love hearing from the audience. So I kind of want to hear what struggles or what successes you're having right now on the individual giving side. There's a lot of especially during an election year, we have a lot of competition, I guess, in the sense that money's kind of going all over the place these days. And so the nonprofits that I hear from right now are, I guess, doing okay on the grant side of things, but they're kind of struggling a little bit with the cost of living and everything else. So all good, Kirsten? We're good? Okay, go ahead. So please, anybody who's out there that wants to talk to me. I see Lulis is on. Eduardo, anybody tell me what's going on in your world? Zineb?
Hi.
Hey.
Yeah, I would love to start if that's okay.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Good to see you again and
You too.
of you. So I co-founded an animal rescue and sanctuary with my mom, and individual giving has been really our only main way of funding. In fact, it's probably just 2% of our operations right now. So we're really, really early on in this. What I struggle with, would love to learn from others about, is how we can get more donors to do the monthly donations, because those are a great way to make sure you understand what is coming in, and they're a lot more certain than the one. And so that's kind of what's top of mind for me, is just trying to get more donors to do monthly donations, even if it's $10 or 20. And I think that gets that all adds up. So just that's kind of where I am right now.
Kirsten, I don't know if you're going to cover it, so I just started asking some questions so we got a good idea on where you want to go with the conversation here.
It is my 30-year wedding anniversary today, and that was my children calling with my husband to. We're all in different places, so sorry.
Congratulations, you did it.
Thank you. Yes. Yes. All right. So let's see.
Zineb, I promise you we'll get to that answer.
So Zineb asking, were you asking, Zineb, about upgrading people to recurring or just getting them into recurring?
Yeah, just getting them there. We have a few folks who are recurring right now. We have a few folks who every now and then will, give an amount, but how do you get them to be that recurring donor? Oh, cannot hear you for some reason, but you're not muted.
Wow. It's so strange. I'm so sorry. I don't know, you guys. I'm even wired in today.
Well, we can hear you now.
Yeah, we can.
Not sure.
Barely.
Nope, can't hear you.
I wonder if you can call in from your phone. That sometimes is really helpful.
Great idea.
My whole job is on Zoom, so.
And we all want to know how to get recurring donors, so we need your voice.
Yeah.
I can show you the AI way, but Kirsten has the experience. Yeah. I mean, to me, it's about engagement, right? It just comes down to, what are you doing to get people to kind of fall in love with what you're saying, right? And I go back to, gosh, me being a youngster and my mom donating $20 a month to World Vision, and us getting that monthly letter from my, I guess, half brother you know, wherever he was in the world, of us kind of giving back. And I think it was that constant engagement of, you know, my donation is actually having an impact. And I think nowadays with social media, there's so much consumption, there's so much information out there. Maybe going back to, you know, the old way of just even paper or just communicating in a certain way. I think it's always about top of mind. You know, how do you get to a place where the value that you're offering or that you're giving is something that that donor is going to want to continue with, right? And a lot of times it's sometimes asking for the smaller amounts. Can we start at $5 or $10 and just buy engagement and get engagement in the sense of people wanting to understand and wanting to look deeper at the newsletter and supporting the work that we do, and then little by little kind of increasing the amount that you're getting from the person. But a lot of it also kind of comes down to something I was going to talk about later, which is kind of understanding your donor persona and understanding kind of who fits into what bucket and what the relationship or the ask should be for that type of person. Do you know what I'm saying? Especially in these days, I think where we have more of the younger generation used to having things on monthly subscriptions, you know, your Netflix, your Amazon Prime, all these different things. If you can kind of fit into that smaller category and deliver the kind of value by presenting it properly, it comes down to messaging. Do you know what I'm saying? How are you messaging and what are you messaging? Depending on the donor characteristics that you have, right? If you have an old, not saying, I'm not generalizing here, right? But from my experience, right, an older person might have a donor advice fund. They might have more just one-time gift. They might just be able to cut a larger check. They're not, you know, as used to seeing monthly recurring debits on their accounts. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think it comes down to really understanding who you're targeting, why you're targeting them, and then customizing that unique messaging for each of them.
I think Luis has something to share because that's
Yes.
one of the things that she's always harping on is get those recurring donors because then you consistently get their attention every single month and it's easier to communicate, and they feel more, you know, close to the mission than just those one-time gifts.
Yeah, there's a beautiful comment in the chat there from Allison, and that's exactly it, right? It's kind of staying relevant and kind staying top of mind, right? Having this Christmas in July or make a will in August aspect of things. It's, you know, one of these different things of just standing out and kind of being there in front of it. So I love that. Lulis, were you going to say something?
Well, Tanaka knows this. I always like push the recurring donation. It's a tough one. It is, you have to be very persistent, but to a point that you don't lose friends either. The thing is, so you cultivate your donors, you know who they are, you group them as like maybe some of them might be able to give, like you said, $10, $20 a month. So you reach out to them, but most of it is calling them, texting them, having lunch with them, something where you get to the point when they're ready and then they'll do it. And sometimes they say they will do it, but it takes, they don't do it. So you have to remind them very, very friendly. It does take a while, but once you have them already recurring, first of all, very important, you you steward them. So every month you thank them, you send a little something, or even you call them, especially the ones that are giving a little bit more because you don't want to lose them. But everybody gets like a thank you for sure, everybody. But the ones that you really don't want to lose, you have to do a little extra with them. And then sometimes you will ask them if you feel comfortable, if they can move their donation a little higher. And so it's a constant like work towards it. But the thing is once you have them, it's a great donation because you are sure to have certain amount every month. So it's really one of the things that I always kind of push my board to, like, please, let's get more people to do this, more people to do this. And it's almost like an everyday thing. Is like, I would think of somebody, oh my gosh, this would be perfect for recurring. Let me call them. And it's like, it's a very important thing for a nonprofit, but it does take certain work to get them. But once you get them, you have to keep them happy. You have to keep them informed. And then at one point, you can ask a little bit more of them. And sometimes you might lose them because of something. You reach out to them, you say, oh, you can give us less or something, but you really don't want to lose any of them because once you have them, are very important. So it is hard. We started with a few of them. Right now, I think we have around 40, 45.
Wow.
It's not a lot, but it's good. It's
What do you
good.
think the average donation amount monthly is?
They always start around 25 because we kind of said like, oh, to sponsor a monthly, and we kind of said like that low
Mhm.
25. So we do have, I would say average would be around 50, 60, because we do have some for 100. We have a few 200. But yeah, I think it's something we all nonprofits we have to pursue. We have to work at it, and then once you have it, you just really want to keep it the best way. So you have to be very good with all your recurrent donors. I don't know. That's
Yeah, that's very helpful. And again, I maybe don't want to take too much airtime here, but I was thinking about this recently, and we're too new for me to have come across this issue. But what happens when someone's credit card is expired, and they don't renew? Maybe they're, because I get busy, everybody gets busy. They're like, oh, I'll get to it. Has anybody come across that? And what's the best way strategy?
Lulis goes and knocks on people's doors. That's what I think Lulis does.
almost. We had that. Yes, we had that. And believe it or not, couple of them were very good friends of mine. It's hard, but in a very friendly way, very smiley way. You come and like, oh, remember your credit card expired and we need your donation. And they're like, well, I'll get to it. And then there's no other way. You just have to find a nice, friendly way to remind them. And if it's, don't get like too pushy because then it's not good. But you have to find that balance of friendly reminders, but don't let them go. Because if they already were recurring, they will want to do it, but sometimes it's just hard for them to get. Let me tell you like an example really quick. We had the platform PayPal to do the recurring donations. Then we switched to Network for Good. So we try to move a lot of our recurring donors to Network for Good, but I did not touch the ones that are a little bit more difficult or the ones that we might lose the donation because by the time they move it they cancel one and then you have to like pursue them to do the other one. So I have my PayPal, like the donors I don't want to move, they're there and they're going to be there maybe forever. I don't mind, but I don't move them because of that reason, because you have to make sure that they do change to the other platform. So yeah, it's a matter of like balancing the pushing, the friendliness, the smiling, all that, and telling them like where their donation, explaining how important those donations are, because their donation will help this and this and this. And because you have that already set for you, it's a great way to know that you have already that amount monthly. So you use kind of certain ways to pursue them to not give up.
Can you guys hear me now? Yes. Okay. All right.
Perfect.
Everything else failed, so I'm off the phone. All right. Well, thank you, Lulis, for sharing that. I pick up the phone and call people. It gives us a great reason to connect with donors, and I call them. And if I can't reach them by phone, I email them. Very, very nice. And just, again, it just gives you another opportunity to connect with people and have a conversation. Ask them what they think about how things are going. Did they hear about the program that you launched? Did they hear about the campaign that's coming up? I mean, did they get the last stewardship report you sent them? I mean, there's so many things that you can find to talk about. And even if people don't pick up and you're able to leave a voicemail, most of the time I've gotten very favorable responses and people are like, oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. I will say about a quarter of the time I've had people say, you know what, I actually, I'm quite happy to let it go. I think I'm going to shift my focus for giving or whatever. I mean, that happens too. But honestly, I'd rather people felt good about their gift than than have them forget that they had this recurring gift and on their credit card and then be like, oh gosh, that's right, I forgot to cancel that. So anyway, but we definitely want to do something about it. Like Bloomerang has that notification that says it has an alert that tells you how many people's credit cards didn't go through on the last one. And if you look at just what that amounts to over the course of a year, I mean, you really have to nip it in the bud and stay on top of it. So Lisa.
So I'm very new to this whole nonprofit thing. I don't even have my own yet. I'm still donating to our partners. But what came to mind is there permissibility to incentivize that in any way? For example, if I don't know if you don't know somebody's going to be expiring or you just get the report that says they did. I know and I'm an HR person, so I think in this, engagement, incentivizing reward, total reward kind of aspect. I know that there's a place where you can get like movie tickets for $8, right? So, renew your card today or by the end of the week and get 2 movie tickets. It's a $25 donation and it costs you 15 or 16 bucks for the tickets. You've made $9, but at least you got the recurring piece. Is that permissible? Is that not allowed? Is that too creative? Thoughts?
I don't know. Interesting. I'd never heard of that before. As far as
I'd say it is permissible. I think where you might have a little bit of a challenge comes to the deductibility of the entire amount. So by IRS law, hypothetically, let's say you buy a ticket for an event for $200, but the actual dinner cost was $100 and something. The actual deduction you can give the person is kind of the difference between them both. So
Right.
hypothetically, if you're going to say for $25, I'm going to give you $15 in tickets. Again, it's minor, but it is something that for the legal standard, you're going to want to have to make sure on that. But you know who does it? Like the blood banks do it a lot, right? Where you donate blood or you donate money and you're going to get movie tickets and things like that. So it is something that happens.
Yeah.
I'd say that most nonprofits don't have that kind of maybe entrepreneurship mindset in the terms of I'm going to spend money to make money. But if you think about it, that's what galas do or fundraisers, right? You got to spend all this money up front to try to raise it.
And it's just an incentive to, hey, update your credit card and we'll give you this, right? So maybe it's business expense,
I like it. I like it.
Yeah. Well,
it's the carrot, you
Yeah.
gotta
If somebody tries it, let us know how it goes. If anybody tries it.
Yeah.
All
but
right.
by that token, really quick, if I can just add something, which I've seen in a couple of locations, it's kind of like the tiered aspect of the monthly heroes club, right? And so you can generate some kind of more buzz in this aspect of getting something in return, which is like you belong to the monthly heroes club. And guess what? Just in Lily's case, roughly, right? If you got 40, 50 people giving you $50, that's $2,000 a month. That's $25K a year. Do you know what I'm saying? I would highlight those monthly members and say, because we have these monthly members every month, we can do this. And maybe those monthly members are what's affording you the chance to invest in technology, invest in ChatGPT, or bring on an expert to do something else. And all of a sudden that $2K a month amongst 50 people turns into 10K or 15K, whatever it is, right? So that's where the marketing kind of comes in, of highlighting those people and saying, thank you, our monthly givers, our monthly heroes, because it's because of you and your commitment. And by the way, highlighting that is also helps you show everyone else that there are 50, 60 people that do believe in you on a monthly basis. Then you are a worthwhile donation or investment.
Yeah.
That's
I
my take.
Completely agree. I like that. So, and I have to say, I don't know that we pay enough attention to our recurring donors because the amounts, the monthly amount is small. So I think highlighting them as a donor group is a great idea. So if we think about individual giving overall and why it's so important, first of all, it's far less expensive than events, for example, which, everyone knows that's a big pain point of mine and for a lot of people. But really, the sustainable revenue is critical. And the fact that grants can come and go. We don't know what foundations are going to be doing year to year, what their plans are going to be, what their initiatives are going to be. If we're going to have something that's going to catch their attention, maybe they only want to fund organizations that are just getting started. But if we think about the pain points with individual giving, which this is what I hear about the most, is the struggle. So it always comes down to, who do I ask? I don't know who to ask for the gift, or I have all these people, but how do I pick and choose from my database? Or I don't even have a database. I only have 20 people and I'm just getting started with this. But how do I ask them? How much am I asking for? Why can't I just have another event? That way I can just invite everybody. What if I get rejected? What if they say no? It's so stressful. I mean, there are all these things. How do I find the people to talk to? I mean, there's so many pieces to this, and I really wanted to break it down today and just get it into let's get it into a picture of reality and what we're dealing with. And so this does go into a little bit of the major giving and major gifts, but we're going to talk about major gifts next month on August 13th. But there is some overlap here. So this really is focusing on individual gifts as opposed to corporate sponsors, as opposed to grants, and as opposed to events. So we need a system. And the system is important because the system is what's going to allow you, first of all, the freedom and the time to get, and by the way, I'm sorry I don't put this in presentation mode, but then I can't see anyone and I can't see the chat. It makes it easy for you to include others. So if you have a system and you've shown it to maybe you have a small development committee or advancement committee, your board, your advisory board, you have your team, right? So if we have a system and we say, okay, this is the process, this is what we're doing, this is how we're prospecting, these are the months that we're going to be actively prospecting, and this is how we're going to do it, we now have something that we can scale as well, because we can bring other people into it. So this isn't something that I sit down on a Monday morning and say, I really need some more individual donors. Where am I going to find them? Let me start making some phone calls. Let me reach out to my board. No, let me put together a plan of how we're going to do this, because that will make it scalable. I can bring more people into this. It also helps with some of the decision making. So what are we going to do? When are we going to do it? Oh, we have this group of people that have come forward that have expressed an interest because they came for a tour of our facility. Great. What should we do with them? You can get your board to participate. What could we do with them? Could we invite them into a focus group conversation? Could we invite some of them to a board meeting? Could we host a fundraising cocktail party at someone's house and invite them? So it does help with the decision making when we know what it is that we're doing and how we are prospecting, cultivating, soliciting, and stewarding over the course of a year. It also allows us to use our resources. So we're making sure that we've got everything in place. We have our documents, we have our impact stories, or we have our case for support, or we have our CRM, ready to go. Maybe we don't need one yet. Maybe we're good with a spreadsheet for now, and it's going to be a CRM in a year when we have 100 or 200 or 500 donors. It helps to assign some roles. So who's going to do what? What role does each person want to play? And if you do have people stepping forward and they're interested in getting involved, figure out, okay, this person is maybe not so good at the direct ask, but they're great at doing a tour. They're great at hosting someone. They're great at inviting them to something. They're great at thanking people if they've attended an event, or they're well connected and they're willing to just make an introduction. So it really helps so that people understand what's expected, what's happening, and you can get some support with the work that you're doing. So what we're trying to do is acquire donors, retain the donors, upgrade donors like Luli's talked about, and then have them refer other people to your organization. So if we have a timeline of all of the prospect and donor activities, we can assign tasks. But really what we want to do is focus on 3 major things. So everywhere you're going, focus on 3 things. So prospecting, just pick 3 things. Don't say, oh, we're going to we're going to attend events. We're going to go to association events. We're going to have a table at the Green Market. We're going to speak at the next Rotary session. I'm going to, have my board members have a meet and greet session. Just pick 3 things. 3 seems to be the magic number. It's what we can handle. There are probably 17 things that you could be doing, but it becomes so overwhelming that you don't really do any one thing in a great way. And you need to double down. You really just need to focus on 1 to 3 things that are your focus and that'll keep you on track. and hopefully produce results so that now you've got some motivation and incentive to keep moving forward. So let's think about prospects. So how do we even know who could be a good prospect? Typically, they have some kind of interest or connection to the mission of the organization. So they've heard about the organization, they've supported nonprofits that have a similar mission, maybe. Somehow they've connected to, they've attended an event, they heard about something that was going on connected to the organization. Maybe they were forwarded a newsletter and they were very interested. So they have some kind of interest, they have the capacity and the willingness to give, but more importantly, they're accessible to you. So just because they have the capacity and willingness to give to a cause that's similar to yours, maybe, doesn't mean necessarily that they're going to be accessible to you. And it's funny because this happens so much especially with organizations that are just getting started, and I'll have board members call me and they say, well, Kirsten, I didn't want to bring this up, with everybody, but why don't we have the Gates Foundation on our list? And why don't we have, all these foundations that really are probably out of the range of a lot of the nonprofits. Realistically, I mean, a lot of people here on this call probably aren't going to have access maybe to the Gates Foundation or some of these other ones. So it's who's accessible to you, right? What's realistic for you? So doing research through social, through all of the social networks, through LinkedIn, using AI to do research. I have plugged in names of people that I've seen in the newspaper. I still read the newspaper, in articles, online, magazines. I'll plug in names to AI and ask about people. And sure enough, it tells me information. Now, it is information that you can find on the web, but it's helpful. It's helpful to have it summarized in one place. So finding out what organizations they support, that's a great one you can ask ChatGPT for help with. Find out a little bit about their professional lives, their social lives, if you can. What are they involved in? What are they interested in? Maybe use a wealth screening tool if you have access to one. So really looking at their ability to get involved, their interest in getting involved in the community, and then could they potentially have a connection to your organization? I will say that the connection and interest in the mission, it is sometimes derived from personal connections. And I know a lot of donors that give because they know the executive director, they've known them for a long time, maybe from college or whatever. And so they have a connection to a person, a staff member, a board member of the organization. Those prospects and those donors, they're good to have, but I would say that the connection might be slightly weaker. So what happens if that executive director leaves? Is the donor now going to go with the executive director maybe to another organization? So it's kind of goes both ways, but we're really looking for that authentic connection to the mission and the organization. All right, so let's think about where we're going to find them. And this is one of my favorite topics because I think it's endless. The possibilities are endless as far as where you can find potential prospects. So my favorite is referrals. I think that referrals are just a fantastic source of potential prospects from board members, donors, vendors, former board members. Building relationships. So you building relationships out in the community, out with people. That's a great way to find prospects. Intentional prospecting. So intentionally looking for individuals. One of the things that I hear a lot is sort of this, well, we don't really feel the need to look for people because we're really good at what we do, and we're very good at marketing, and we know people are going to hear about us through all these different channels and through social media, and we were on the news last week, and I say, yeah, that's all great, but that's default prospecting. That's not intentional prospecting. That's not seeking people out, and that's what we need to do. We need to seek people out. We want to get very active in the community. What does that mean? Maybe joining a chamber of commerce, maybe finding opportunities to speak. There are always opportunities to speak. I just joined Rotary in Chicago, and they have a speaker every week, and they're always looking for speakers. So find ways that you can get involved and you can make connections with people. These fundraising events, hosting a small gathering at someone's home, non-ask. So these are not ask events. We're not asking for money. We're just inviting people in. We're telling them a little bit about the organization. Typically, we keep it short and sweet. And again, not asking for anything, just sharing information, but collect emails. That's the most important thing. Collect contact information, because our job starts after the event, which is all about the follow-up. And the success of your work is going to be based on how well you follow up with people and how diligent you are about that and how authentic and how you build a relationship with people. You could attend some events. You could attend another nonprofit event with a donor, a board member, a friend. You can invite people to focus groups. If you have a topic that's of interest, generally to the public, you could have panel discussions, you can have lunch and learns. There are lots of opportunities to bring people in. I always talk about the first virtual open house I attended for a project in Guatemala, in a very, very rural area. It's in a cafetal. They have a little schoolhouse on a coffee finca, and they had a virtual open house, and I got to see the kids and the artwork, and they were, playing music, and it was just fantastic. So you just never know how. And I brought a friend to that, so there were two of us participating in this virtual, was sitting next to each other, watching, going, "Oh, how cute, how sweet." So community festivals, markets, having a table somewhere, inviting people to join your advisory board. That's always a great, great way to bring some people closer. But when we're thinking about referrals, for example, from board members, one of the things we have to be really careful with is that board members, if we ask them, for example, let's say we say, okay, we need each board member to go out and find three prospects, because each board member has to bring in $5,000 from other donors. Often what board members are going to do is call in favors with their friends. That's typically what they do. They're going to say, "Hey, listen, John, I'm on this board, really need you to buy some tickets for this event, or really need you to sign up for their newsletter," whatever. So just be careful, because those don't really form lasting donor relationships. Those are board members calling in favors with their friends. And we all do it. We all have friends that we say, "Listen, I need you to come to this thing with me," or "I need you to get involved." So just be a little careful with that. And when we're asking for referrals, we have to be really clear and open about it. So if you're asking a donor, if maybe they've been a donor for a while, and just say, "Do you know anyone else who might be interested? We're really looking to grow our prospect base and add more people to our newsletter." And I've had many donors say, "No, I don't feel comfortable with that. That's not something I'd like to." Okay, that's fine. But for the ones that do, it's priceless, because these are their friends. This is their network. So it really is worth the effort, and it's worth the decline on the ones that are possibly going to decline you. Non-ask events, those fundraising events, a great goal is for a year. So think of one each quarter, and they can be rotated. Board members could take turns, have them each, board members, you don't want to go and ask for money, don't want to ask for the check, which is what board members always say. Great. Can one of you please host one of these quarterly fundraising events at your home or at a little, local restaurant or something? A lot of these venues will work with you. I would say don't focus only on the wealthy. It is a myth that only the wealthy give, or really only the wealthy are good prospects. Yes, they are involved in philanthropy, but we really don't want to focus only on the wealthy. And there's some myths about donors, and the donors in South Florida, or the donors in Chicago, or donors are donors. Donors are human beings. They have hearts, and they want to build relationships, and they want to get close to organizations, and they want to trust them and know them. So some of these myths we kind of have to dispel, because I think they're sometimes just an easy way out, and they kind of let us off the hook. But the reality is, it's up to us to do the hard work. And individual giving, yes, it takes time and it takes effort, but we have to go through the process. Problem is, if we don't, I always think of this like the planting seeds. So if we don't do this, we have nothing to reap at the end of the year, right? So what happens when you do your end of year appeals? Where's your list? Where's your list of people that you're going to be appealing to? Where's the list of people that you've been gradually cultivating over the year with your email blasts and your newsletters, and you're inviting them to your virtual open house. So let's say we've found the people, we've had an opportunity to get to know them. They came to the talk you gave at Rotary, or they came to the cocktail party at a board member's house. So this is where it becomes so important. So we're contacting everyone, ideally you, if you can, otherwise, your team. We're thanking them. We ask them for some thoughts and some feedback. Ask them if you can add them to the newsletter. Just find a way that you can really start to build a little bit of a connection. We're never going to ask for a gift right away, ever, unless they volunteer that information. And when you're talking to them, be prepared. Have your 3 to 5 impact stories just at the top of your head that you can talk about. And as you're having the conversation, if you have the opportunity, pull out one of those impact stories from your head and talk about something powerful that you think could be, interesting to that donor. And really pay attention to what they tell you, because they'll give you so many clues about their potential to give a gift to the organization. And I would say also, make sure you're talking about your goals for the year. So this may not be really fodder for conversation when you're just calling them as a follow-up to an event. But if you have an opportunity to have a more in-depth conversation, talk about the goals for the year, talk about the big plans, talk about, the big vision that you have for the organization. That always is appealing to people. So if we think about getting to know them, because now we've had a chance to briefly interact, we got a business card, or they gave us their email address and their phone numbers, we've signed them up for the newsletter, we had that phone call. A great way to get to know them even further is through introductions. So maybe a board member brought 2 people to this fundraising event. Well, maybe the board member would be willing to host a lunch, a coffee, a tea, where you could really have a more in-depth introduction and conversation. Persistence is really important. You just have to keep going. You have to keep going until they'll tell you, they'll let you know when they're kind of maxed out at the communication and don't have the time, or they're busy and so on. You do want to slowly scale up your efforts. So we're starting with that phone call, add them to the newsletter, maybe a one-on-one communication in a couple of months, maybe another phone call. So we're kind of scaling up over time, and we're gauging what kind of response we're getting. And you'll be able to tell if they back off a little bit, or if they just say, oh, it's just not a good time right now. I went to that event really as a favor to my friend John, but I'm heavily involved in this other organization. Okay, that's great. Well, when the time is right, we'd love to, have you be part of our family. But really, if we don't ask and if we don't make the effort, it just kind of falls apart halfway, and it just becomes this sort of weak, sort of attempt without really any follow-up or consistency. And that's the other thing, is that we're trying to build trust and build a relationship, and people want to get to know you, and they want to get to know how the organization operates and what they can expect. And so when they know that you're on it, you're answering emails right away, you're answering phone calls, or you're staying on top of things. Yeah, I did have a question about, you mentioned that, there were 450 or 460 animals spayed and neutered last year in Broward County. But how does that work? Because we've got thousands of them. So where are all the other ones? Don't you guys get to, they may ask questions. We'll get back to them with that information. Let me get back to you on that. You're absolutely right. Why isn't our reach a little broader? We should form some partners. Do you have any suggestions on how we could address that? This is the thing, is we're trying to engage them. We're trying to see how interested they are as well. So we're communicating regularly. 3-to-1 guideline is 3 non-ask communications for 1 ask communication. So once you've gotten into a groove with someone and they've become part of your world, 3-to-1 is really the rule of thumb. And there should be some newsletter, something going out that does not have a formal ask. I'm not saying don't include your donate button. I'm just saying something should be going out that does not include an ask. And ideally, that would be a newsletter. All right. So we get to the point where we've been given some signals, and we feel like a donor is very interested. They've even said maybe that they know other people that might be interested in supporting, or You know, who knows, maybe from their history of being with other organizations. So our responsibility, what do we bring to this? We have to bring the willingness and the enthusiasm, passion about the cause, and a great attitude. And not only do foundations want to support organizations that are on the verge of greatness, but donors want to be part of a really big vision. So we have to present that to them. That's what we have to give them, is this amazing vision, this passion, these goals, our impact stories. So think about your preparedness. Do you have what you need? Do you have your case for support? Do you have your impact stories? Do you have things at top of mind, some statistics that you can reel off? Do you have one really, really powerful testimonial that's going to give people goosebumps? I mean, that the goosebump story carries so much weight. You know, it's like when we do strategic planning with boards, I'll say, well, what brought you to this organization? And inevitably, what someone will tell me is something that gave them goosebumps. And it gives everybody goosebumps when they tell the story. And it's one thing that stood, right? There could be 17 wonderful things that the organization does, but it's the one story that stuck out. It's the one child that's on their mind that was impacted or changed, whose life was changed. So really think about your goosebump story, think about your impact stories, think about your goals so that you're ready, you can have these conversations. But let's think about what's going through the mind of the donor. So, we know that they are resistant to the sales job, right? That's never going to go over well. They do want to give. They inherently want to give. They want to support a cause, but they have to be asked. And we need to be clear about that ask. We can't sort of dance around it. They always want to understand where the money goes. They want to be part of the big vision. They want to make a difference, and they give to organizations that they trust. So if we, so I am having some connection issues here. All right, so let's talk about when and how we ask. We should be looking at our prospects with the goal of having a gift by year end. That's our plan. So if we're working towards, and maybe if they're a new prospect in November, December might be a little early, but that should be a goal. 12 months of cultivation, somewhere up to 12 months of cultivation, really no more than that. We want to make sure we've warmed them up. So we've really made the time to get to know them, to work with them through the course of the year. We are listening for clues. We're asking if they'd like to get more involved. We can use a campaign or a program to make the ask, which to me is really important. I think it's far more powerful to a donor, to a prospect, if we ask with a specific goal in mind, if we ask with something exciting in mind that maybe aligns. That's why we're listening for clues. So something that aligns well with what they're interested in. And we're going to talk about, the next session is going to be about the ask specifically, because it can be terrifying. It can be absolutely terrifying. And it's also critical, absolutely critical. And we all need to participate in it. There is no easy way out. And we can't rely on grants. We can't rely on events entirely. We need to be planting these seeds. And some of these are going to really turn into something significant. But 99% of the time, they need to be asked. They're simply, the thing is, we're all so focused on how we present ourselves. Oh, we want to have a nice polished this, and we want to have a brochure, and we want to have a flyer, and but the graphics on this don't look well, you need it perfect. Da, da, da. The image that presents to a prospect is, wow, they're so put together. They've got everything in hand. That's great. I bet they got lots of money coming in. So there's so many assumptions that are made. And if we don't go out of our way to tell them that we need the money, to tell them that their funds are critical to execute on these programs, and the funds we raised last year went to this, this, and this, and in order to expand our reach to 4 more schools this year, it is going to take an extra $250,000, and it's going to go to cover these areas. So it's it feels on our end as though it should be intuitive, but it's not. And it's our job to spell it out and make it as clear for them as possible and as easy for them to understand as possible. So I like to use a program, a campaign, or break it down and say a gift of $5,000 will help this many children or provide this many meals or provide, so just think about ways that you can kind of break it down and quantify it into something that people really can understand, get their minds around. Danny, I do want to talk about how we can implement AI and use AI in some of our individual giving work. Some of the things that come to mind immediately for me are scripting. So if I have a nice annual report, I'd upload it to ChatGPT and say, can you give me 3 great impact stories from this? Or give me some statistics that I can reel off in a conversation with a donor who's very interested in something specific. So I would be using AI to help me with scripts, help me with some prospect research. And this is assuming that I'm not paying for expensive software platforms. I don't have maybe the funds or the resources for Wealth Engine, let's say. So this would be, really what are the uses that are sort of, practical everyday uses that we can really implement. What suggestions do you have, Danny?
Yeah, I want to touch base on the comment about it's not just about the money or not the ask, right? Because you said it several times. We're not going to ask. We're not going to ask. And I think that's important because we're trying to create this energy and this frequency and this vibration of trust, of belonging, of someone actually wanting to kind of get to know you better. And one of the things that I think that nonprofits that are those that are members of chambers of commerce or those that belong or are involved in cities, because I know you go to a lot of chambers and like Delray Beach has a big nonprofit scene. I'm always kind of in awe of how many nonprofits just don't go up to someone that's a successful entrepreneur, someone that's doing well. And instead of asking for money, it's like, hey, you've built a successful business. Running a nonprofit as a startup is kind of similar, right? Like whether you are raising money or looking for clients, I'm looking for support. I'm trying to accomplish this. I got to tell you, like you go to someone that's, thriving or doing well, and you just ask them for, can we grab a cup of coffee so I can just ask you how do you manage your day? What's your outlook? What tools are you using? It's not about the money all the time. Back to the monthly aspect of it. I'd be happy with 50 people every month that would give me a good piece of advice. It would probably be worth more than $50. Good friends, good mentoring. You know what I'm saying? Go out there and find a mentor. Go out there and, come up with this understanding that we need to have this for-profit, nonprofit, for impact community come together in many ways. And yeah, the money goes far, but the collaboration goes much further than the actual dollar amount. So I kind of wanted to bring that up too, because I think from the individual donor aspect, having someone have your back is so powerful. You were talking about, is someone good at, events? Someone's good at, there's some people that have beautiful handwriting and they'd love to sit there just writing thank you letters. Fine, beautiful. If that's all you can do, love it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So I think it's also this reframing of, yes, the money's important. The money gets us resources. The money helps us, but having the collaborative effect, to your point, right? Can you have a get together and invite 2 or 3 other friends? That's how things work. And before you know it, you have a couple of CEOs, a couple of executive people, and they're coming to you, they're coming to your events. And before you know it, someone cuts a big check. It's just how the nature of things are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I wanted to kind of preface that, right? And so what I think is important on that kind of subject is you can do this local research. Kirsten said, I still read the papers. And that's beautiful, right? I believe every major city has a business journal. And that's online, right? Like you can come up and say, who are the top, 50 CEOs or bankers? I'm a recovering banker, I like to say. That's why I have so many friends, because I was a banker and I knew all the CPAs, I knew all the attorneys, I knew all the, investors in whatever community I was with, because it was my job to network. And so maybe you don't have to meet everybody, but if you meet the Danny out there that knows a lot of people, That's your circle of influence. You know, we don't talk about that enough in philanthropy, in the nonprofit sector. Who's your circle of influence, right? And so these are the tools. When you say what tools are there, let's just go with simple Google. Let's just start up with something super simple as doing a Google search or a research of saying, who are the, you know, whatever town or city I'm in, you know, the who's who. Most, I would say every chamber of commerce, their directory is open. You can go right now to the Boca Chamber, Delray Chamber, or whatever, Chicago, and just hit members, and you will see every single listing because they're promoting it, right? Well,
Yep.
now you have a website. You don't need many tools. What I'm telling you is just simple Google search, find your local chamber of commerce, find and then just start searching, right? Who are the key people? Who are the key executives? LinkedIn. If you're not using LinkedIn in 2024, you're way behind, because every single, I would say, major donor is on LinkedIn. The information today, the big news was that, for those that heard, Bloomberg Philanthropies donated $1 billion to Johns Hopkins University. Right? It's all over LinkedIn. Great place for you to go in there, give a comment. What do you think about it? Right? Get exposure, tag people, comment on your chamber, things like that to get out there in terms of that will help you, right? When you want to go into like deeper research, I'm a big fan of the concept of like data enrichment, right? And so what I put together actually was a very simple donor persona form. It's a 2-page form. I'm sending it to Kirsten. It's going to be on her website for free. Log in. It'll be in her ebook section. And it's basically a 2-page document where it just says, you fill in the blanks. What's their gender? What's their name? You know, and this is where you kind of identify what I was telling Zineb earlier, right? Like, is it a millennial? Is it a Gen X? Is it a boomer? You know, we're going through this kind of phase right now where the next 15 years is wealth transfer. Is supposed to be this immense amount of money in philanthropy transferring hands. Great. How do we start planting those seeds with the next generations that's going to be controlling this wealth, right? But really, to me, it begins with understanding the different type of donors you may have now. And when I mean donors, I think we have to kind of change that to either stakeholders or supporters. I'm a big fan of the word supporters, much more than donors, right? Because I know so many organizations, and I will tell you, although I'm a philanthropist and I'll donate, you know, I think the support that I give as a mentor, the support that I give as a friend, the support that I give as just a shoulder to cry on to, you know, CEOs of running multi-million-dollar organizations that call me up really stressed out and burnt out, that sometimes is worth so much more money than, you know, cutting a check in many ways and then not having that emotional connection to it, right? And so when I say supporters, right, it's who's there that has your back, and let's start building a simple 1-page, 2-page document. You'll see it, you can download it from the website, and it'll just start saying, what's the average range? What do you think they have as a yearly income? What do they like? What don't they like? Where did they go to school? And you start kind of building this, it's a persona, right? But you kind of start building this framework of what a good supporter is and what a not a good supporter is. Eduardo, do you have a question? I see your hand up. You're on mute.
Yes, thank you, Danny. Thank you both so much as always. This morning I attended a breakfast meeting, the Miramar Pembroke Pines Chamber of Commerce, and sitting right next to me, I am a Kiwanian, and is a former Kiwanian. And I said, Luis, why don't you rejoin our Kiwanis Club? And it just made me realize that there are so many members. My organization, I'm a newcomer to Broward County, but my organization went from, let's say, 50 members down to 2 members just not long ago. Wow. Now we're up to 30 members. So we have a lot of members that used to be members, okay, that I need to contact and say, hey, come back. What an incredible, and of course, through the Chamber of Commerce and networking.
Yes, absolutely, Eduardo. And you know, what came to mind, Danny, as you were speaking, also is we have to get uncomfortable a little bit too. We're so used to going to the places we always go, seeing the people we always see, going to the same coffee shop to do our work. We have to break a little bit out of our routines in order to be exposed to different people and meet different people that have different interests. You know, when they started Creative Mornings in South Florida, I attended so many of those sessions because it was such a vastly different group of people than I'd ever run into before at any chamber meeting or any Rotary meeting. And it just opened up this whole new world of people that I could talk to and share interests with and attend events with. So I would say, you know, the risk lies in us just doing the same thing over and over again and hoping for different results, right? So we have to get uncomfortable. That means phone calls, that means outreach, it means talking to people, it means being in places that, you know, maybe you wouldn't typically go to, doing things you typically maybe wouldn't do. But that's how you, I mean, there's a whole world of interesting people out there. And like Danny says, if you can broaden your group of peers, of mentors, if you can be part of one of the things I was part of was a mastermind. I met the most incredible people through a mastermind about 5 years ago, and we're still in touch and we're still in contact. And I introduced them to all of my interests and they introduced me to their interests. I mean, so that's the other thing, right? Is just being willing to get a little bit out of your comfort zone and explore other areas and other avenues.
You know, to that point, Kirsten, people sometimes don't, you know, they forget that outside their comfort zone is their growth zone, you know, and it's so kind of icky kind of going there until we realize just it's a frame, it's a mindset frame, right? It's just a sense of like, actually, I'm going to grow here and actually expand that level of what comfort or uncomfort was. And it's not easy, right? And to Eduardo's point, I think we, you know, with technology these days, we're isolated in many ways, right? And I keep saying, listen, the beauty of AI to me in terms of building efficiencies is the time we get back. And the question is, what do we do with that time? Are we going to just doom scroll on our phones? Or are we going to go out there and start building connections where we can each thrive with each other and build thriving communities because we're thriving ourselves, right? And so I think that's the beauty of AI in many ways of what we're doing and what we're building here.
That's a great point.
Yeah, I wrote an incredible letter through AI to a former member, but I'm still awaiting an answer. So I'm not sure how to approach her or, you know, how long do I wait? Do I wait a week? Do I wait 2 weeks? Do I wait a day?
Did you ask the AI?
I'm just thinking about it. Huh?
Did you ask
the AI?
I should.
Yes.
But
Yes.
what a letter, beautiful letter. I'll share that with you guys.
Yes, I'm just quickly looking here at the chat because I know a lot of people have to hop off at the top of the hour, and we do typically continue with Q&A. So I'm sorry to cut you off, but really quickly, Eduardo. First, Zineb, thank you for that study about Florida individual donors. I'll have to take a look at that. That's in the chat. And then she's asking about public data with giving trends that are accessible that share giving trends on individuals. So are you saying public data with trends? Are you talking about like listing names of people, or do you just mean trends in particular geographic regions, Zineb?
More like thematic areas, but I think that's going to be really challenging to obtain. But I think in one of the previous webinars we talked about snail mail, people in the neighborhoods, and so how do you get that data? Like if, you know, I live in zip code XYZ, right, and I want to maybe tell a story about me being a part of this community that's trying to save animals elsewhere. So maybe that's a way that I want to kind of catch a certain group of people. But so where does one get that information?
So there are lists. You can buy lists, you know, mailing lists. People like, you know, think about people that still do catalogs, or, you know, they send the obnoxious amount of, you know, useless mail. That kind, but mail houses do that.
Cool.
Scraping a website is, go ahead, Kirsten. Yeah.
I was going to say, I've done that, and I did it fairly recently for a client, and it worked really, really well because it's incredible how those mailing lists can really focus in on interests, whether they have animals, whether they have children, whether they live in this or they do that or they travel, or so I've had very, very good luck with them, and they weren't that expensive. So
okay, great.
So that's one option, yeah. And then I was going to say, scraping is legal. People think scraping websites is illegal, but it's not. And there's, you know, like the public records, the county appraiser's office has everyone's address. So if you look at someone in a map forum, you know, you could use a simple free tool and just get everyone's address And then I believe the post office does have a special rate for nonprofits. If you apply, you get like a discount on it. I mean, it's going to be pricey, right? Because what is it, 50 something cents, 60 cents a letter now, even if it's a discount. So you're going to spend some money on it. But I think, to that point, especially I think for those that have like a physical location or like in the neighborhood where you're looking for volunteers or you're looking for someone to kind of help out, and stop by the location, it helps a lot
Right.
in that sense as well.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
The other thing I would say is what's really good about that is most neighborhoods that I know of have Facebook groups. For those that you're kind of young. Do you know what Facebook? Have you heard of Facebook yet? You're on the younger side here. Us older people, we grew up on MySpace and Facebook. So no, but there's some great, there's some great communities on there, especially the HOAs, right? And if you join them, you just figure out, or someone that's there that can help you promote what you're doing there. That goes a long way too.
Nextdoor is fantastic. I mean, it's incredible. I've found all kinds of things through Nextdoor, and there's an automatic level of trust that's kind of inherent in these communities just because you live in a particular neighborhood, and so people are willing to share more and talk more about things. So that's been another great one.
And when you're looking for publicity, by the way, a lot of these neighborhoods have, these little towns have the local, newsletter or the local paper that goes out. Get interviewed. Local hero is working on saving animals, things like that. Like every little thing counts, right? It's all about credibility. It's all about getting exposure and people realizing, oh my God, look at the great work that she's doing here in my backyard.
By the way, speaking of publicity, we are going to start our nonprofit spotlight again. We used to do this years ago, and for some reason we stopped. So if anyone would like to be interviewed and recorded, and then we write up an article for a newsletter, we have a mailing list of about 5,000 to 6,000, and we'd be more than happy to feature your organization in our newsletter. So it's another little avenue. Yeah. Questions, comments, thoughts? Before whoever does have to hop off, please feel free to do so. Don't forget that you can access all of the recordings on kannico.com/courses. And the next session is August 13th, same time, 6 p.m. Eastern. And we will be talking about major gifts. And last year when we did major gifts, we had to extend it over 3 sessions because we had so many people that they wanted scripts and they wanted this and they wanted that. And then we did a role play a couple of times. So we'll focus on it as much as we need to until everyone's comfortable with their major gift ask. But it is a nice natural progression from individual giving. But who else has questions, comments? I haven't checked the chat recently.
Or what's worked for you? I love hearing success stories, right? More than the
Success
problems.
stories, yeah. Oh, good point, Allison, about mailing houses. By the way, we didn't mention that, but they'll also, for a fee, do everything for you. Right? You don't even need to go to the post office. You don't even need to see the thing. They'll do everything for you if you want them to. So if you have a little bit of a budget, the mailing houses are fantastic in terms of getting stuff out there. Alliance for Women Executives. Great, Vicki. Yep, we'd love to learn more about it. Absolutely. Okay, Honey, you have a question.
I do. I'm unmuting. Sorry.
Hi.
So I have a quick question. I just wanted to know your thoughts on something that I was looking at doing. So I have some people that have been really generous, and I always go with the next ask is, do you have any friends? And so something came to mind when one of my donors had said recently, I do not. I said, if you have any friends that are invested or like to help good causes, let me know. And they said no. And then she goes, my husband knows a lot of people with money. But then so like we closed the conversation. So I'm thinking of revisiting that, and I just want to know if I've never really done it, but I'm thinking that I should maybe reach out to them and suggest that, would it be possible for me to come to Atlanta? I live in Philly, but I'll fly to Atlanta. And if you could get a couple of your husband's friends, I'd love to do a presentation on why this is so impactful for the community. So is that bad for me to go after her husband? Or is that something you would?
No, I don't think it is. Do you know enough about them? Do you know enough about her to know
I know a
that
lot about
they're
her.
social, that they would be willing to have a little gathering? I mean, that would work? You think that would work?
I know her. I know her. She's very, very kind and sweet and extremely supportive. So I don't know him at all or his friends. So I guess the conversation would be.
I'd start with her. I'd
Mhm.
start with her and just say, you know, do you think this is something you guys would feel comfortable with? I'd love to come to Atlanta. And I don't know, are you maybe if you have a gathering or you'd like to have a few people over, or there's something coming up over the next few months, or, you know, so to feel it out with her first and just see what her response is. And you can say, you know, that there's something you mentioned that has just stuck in my head. And I knew I had to come back to you and ask you about it.
Okay.
I wondered, you know, so I absolutely would do that. 100%. Yep.
Okay. Thanks.
To me, those are all little threads, right? And that's where the diligence comes in, and the following up on everything.
Right. I just didn't know if I was going like like she was so gracious to me when I called for an ask, and she was very kind. I didn't know if it was like, I feel like it couldn't hurt, but I didn't know, maybe I'll say if your friends are having to get together, I'd love to come visit and just share a little if you know anybody.
Was her gift recent, honey? Or was it a while back?
I called her like last month, I think.
Okay. And so the other thing to do would be, was it her first gift?
She's a founder. I could say it on here, but she helped support spellers. So she reached out and randomly sent me a check and said, I want to help. And then I reached out and was like, how much do you want to help? so I reached out.
Okay, so she's been in your universe kind of for a little bit, because that's the other thing, is I would make sure that she already feels comfortable and that she feels like the cause is worthy. She knows what's going on.
Oh, yeah, she does.
Oh, then absolutely, I would. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm going to go after
100%.
her.
You know, it'd be good to start with, without making the trip down there, is even just creating like a general report on what you do and how her gift kind of influenced you. Something really pretty, send it snail mail, something she can have in the house, maybe share with her husband or other people there,
Great
right? Give
idea.
her a reason to be proud of you. Give her a reason to be proud of her own gift, and then kind of follow up after that.
Yeah, that's why I'm struggling. And I'm so happy that my one friend is on here, but I'm struggling because we're like a brand new nonprofit. So I really need like the seed funding. I'm more about like the foundational component so I can start growing. So what we've done is monumental, but I need to go so much bigger, and I need like that seed funding, and I just need people that care about what we're doing to help me with that. So I feel like I'm stuck because I don't have I can't create the graphs, and we're trying to come up with ideas of how to say like your gift would impact. You know, we are the only organization in the country that helps special needs children. So we train physicians. So like one donation of XYZ would help so many children if they see 6 kids a day. Like we're trying to come up with crafty things like that
but that's huge. That's huge.
Yeah.
So have you used AI to help you come up with some of that?
We're working on that.
Okay.
Yeah. I would also tell you that if their husband's successful, I mean, chances are there's probably, you know, an entrepreneurial component to his wealth or his friends in that aspect of it, right? And so if you kind of start associating what you're trying to do from like the entrepreneur side, so you use the word seed funding, great word, right? Now you're trying to scale, right? So you created a minimum viable product or a minimum viable program, right? So you started something, you tested it because someone else invested in you. You prove the model works, and now you're in a place where you have to scale your operations, and so you need some funding, and more importantly, this is where back to the mentoring aspect, right? Those people, those guys might be better mentors for you in the beginning than donors, right? And so when you say, hey, you told me your husband was quite successful and his friends were quite successful, here's kind of where I am right now, right? So, you know, I need the money and it's going to be good to get the money, but I really need the support first. I need to build this advisory board. I need to build this team of mentors around me, right? That are going to help me get to that next level. And that's going to go so much further than, hey, how much money do you have? Right? Work on the collaboration always. Work on that.
Yep.
That's good. Thank you.
Alyssa has a question. Hi, Alyssa.
Hi, Alyssa. Hi. So my question is, how do you approach it if there has been a lapse in communication with donors for whatever, whatever reason? And for a little perspective on that, I'm coming from a grant writing background in grant management, and I'm just starting to kind of delve into these other areas of fundraising. So very new to this whole concept of directly asking anyone for money. But just in general, if there's been a lapse in communication with donors or people that have attended events or anything like that, how do you reestablish that communication?
I'm so glad you. Oh, I sound really strange. Sorry. I'm really glad you brought that up, because that tends to be a question that comes up, especially as we get closer to the end of the year, where suddenly people are like, oh my gosh, we are about to make an ask and we have not done anything for 6 months. It has been crickets. How do we, it just kind of, you're like, you get sick to your stomach for a second. You're like, oh my goodness, we haven't been doing anything. Now we're going to ask these people for money. This feels terrible. What I would say is just get going right away. Get going right away. If you feel there's a need to acknowledge it because of something, you could. I don't think it's necessary. I would just pick up communications. Just pick up communications right away as if nothing's happened, and they'll be pleasantly surprised. A lot of people will think, oh gosh, a newsletter. Okay, so they send out a newsletter. I must have missed the last couple of newsletters. I mean, you never know, right? And we always think, oh, they're like, oh, we haven't heard anything. It's been so long. But people are so busy with their own lives, but do get on it right away, even if it's in some small way, right? It could be an e-blast with an image, and it's flippany, right? Oh, it's flippany, great. And it could be, children in the nutrition program, or the backs of the heads of children if you can't do the faces, and one little caption underneath, just something, just to start this all back up again. But yeah, go ahead.
So sorry. If there has been like that type of communication, like the email blast and things like that, but it's individual level communication or things like that have not. And what if there's a change in your point of contact for who it is at the organization that's responsible for that? And you're kind of shifting from they're used to speaking with person X and now it's person Y.
I would establish some sort of bridge. So you could say, Jessica always shared great stories of whatever, or how much you enjoyed such and such. I've moved more into the role of stewardship or communications, or however you want to phrase, what you're doing. So I would bridge it a little bit so it's not completely cold. If you have the opportunity for the other person to introduce you, that's always great. Or for the executive director to say, by the way, super excited, Alyssa's going to be more involved in this. You may be getting more communications from her. But again, I think if you can finesse it, just kind of making that bridge so that it's not completely cold and they don't think, oh, wait a minute, that's weird. Why am I hearing from her? Is there an opportunity do you guys do webinars? Do you do anything where there would be some visibility where you could be introduced, or the person could be introduced?
I don't know that we've necessarily done that with any of our donors, our individual donors, or anyone like that. I know that we have done like some virtual programming and different things, but nothing really geared towards. And maybe going back to one of the other things that you brought up, maybe that's an opportunity for some sort of virtual open house type event, and we kind of use that as the transition.
Exactly. Yep. But
Alyssa, you said you were new to the position, right?
Well, I'm new to taking on some of these responsibilities. Yeah, I'm a grants officer, and that's been my background. So I'm much more familiar with dealing with, government organizations and larger organizations and things like that. So whole new world.
I'd say just even reaching out from hey, I'm learning, right? We're trying to kind of understand why you supported us or what you saw in us, and that even that innocence aspect of things, of just reaching out. But I would honestly use AI to customize and generate personalized emails for each of these based on whatever interaction they had, and then use some really cool tools so that it's your voice, and it kind of comes from this safe space. Again, it's not about the money, it's supporter, it's stakeholder, it's collaboration. Right. And it's kind of like, not why did you leave, but it's like, here, like I'm here now, right? And I really want to understand, what kind of brought you, can we have a conversation? I'm just curious to get to know you and understand, why you supported or what you did. And I think people would be open to having that conversation with you.
And it's a great opportunity to tell them about a new program or a new initiative or funding that was received from a foundation that allows you to now do this or do that. So that's the other thing is if you can use something else to segue into that conversation and get them engaged, and just say, would love to hear your thoughts. I know that, you've been involved with us for a couple of years. This is what we're thinking of launching, or we're going to have a focus.
What? That's a great, even talk about case for support. We're building a case for support. We're building kind of like this framework for, what people love about us and why they want to support us. Do you think we could jump on a call for a 5, 10, 15-minute interview, whatever it's going to be, and if it's going to be too many people, there's some AI where you can automate, surveys or automate, online videos and things like that. But I think any chance that you have for them to engage with you under the auspice of them supporting you in a non-monetary fashion is where you want to get, right? It's like, hey, listen, since you've, last time we talked to you, we're still all rowing in this direction, and we've gotten so far, right? And we're just now at a point now where we're scaling what we do and we're growing what we do, and we'd love to have a conversation and catch up with you, and and kind of catch you up on everything that we've done in the last X number of months or whatever it's been.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Oh, great. I have pages and pages of notes, so I really appreciate it.
Good. I'm happy to hear that, Alyssa. That's great. Any other comments, questions? Let me check the chat, see if there's anything else. Oh, Deborah, thank you. What a lovely comment. Thank you, Maria. Yes, I will go back and look through the chat. I know that a few of you said that you were very interested in being part of our spotlight, so that's super exciting. I'll enjoy communicating with each of you individually. And then, as always, reach out to us if there are topics you'd like us to cover, or if you have any great success story with anything that we talked about. Gosh, if anyone does a big snail mail mailing in the next few months, let us know how that goes. It's been a year or two since I did one, a year maybe. But yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Any other questions, comments? I can't see everyone. Here, let me stop sharing. And then don't forget that the recordings are always kannico.com/courses. It's a free membership. There are no hooks. We just needed to put it all somewhere besides a Google Drive, which was getting a little old. Danny is our tech person. He's like, okay, we're getting this out of Google Drive. We are putting this somewhere
Yeah,
a little bit more professional. So any other comments, questions, concerns, thoughts?
It was great.
Thank you.
what did the baby think? That's what I want to.
Yes.
She
She was
learned so
awake the whole
much.
time. I saw her. Yeah.
What did you learn? She learned how to charm donors. But
There we
Exactly.
go. I love that. I love that.
Puppies
All
and
right.
babies, they always work.
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone so much. Good to have you all on.
Thank you both
And
so much. You
oh,
guys
it's
are
our pleasure.
fantastic.
We enjoyed
Are
it so much.
fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you all for being here. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
thank you.
Ciao. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.